Someone like to make a motion to return the regular board meeting to public session? Mr. Meyer, second. Mr. Mecca? All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Passes unanimously. I'd like to call the regular board meeting to order. All board members are present except Mrs. Leatherbarrow and Dr. Venator. Mrs. Vasquez has agreed to serve as acting vice president for this evening. I would like to ask Mr. Meyer to lead us, please, in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be advised that in the event of a fire emergency and an evacuation should be necessary, an alarm will sound. Please note all marked emergency exits and evacuate well away from the building. At this time, we request that everyone turn their cell phones and other electronic devices to silent. Thank you. Would someone like to make a motion to add an addendum to the consent agenda personnel and to the action 8 personnel agenda and reorder the agenda to place item 8 personnel after the approval of the minutes, to add an executive session at the end of the regular session and approve the agenda as amended?
13.
13? Oh, I'm sorry, 13. Yep. 13 personnel. Mrs. Beeger, second. Mr. Mecca, any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Board recognition, Dr. Martzloff.
Thank you. I am proud to announce that Williamsville is home to one of only 10 math and science teachers from across the country who are serving as 2017 STEM Teacher Ambassadors, promoting the critical importance of science, technology, engineering, and math education. Mr. Kenneth Huff, a science teacher at Mill Middle School, was selected for the program, which is co-sponsored by the National Science Teachers Association and the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics. Mill Middle Principal Mike Calandra is here to introduce Mr. Huff, who will tell us some more about his role as a National STEM Ambassador. Mr. Calandra?
Thank you, Dr. Martzloff. This has become almost a yearly tradition to stand before the Board of Education and Dr. Martzloff to recognize the accomplishments of Mr. Kenneth Huff. I believe that it demonstrates the concept of a lifelong learner and a true commitment to education that Mr. Huff possesses. I have worked with Mr. Huff for over the past 18 years and watched as he has facilitated numerous exceptional and unique learning opportunities to not only the Mill community, but also our entire school district. In this capacity as a teacher ambassador, he will serve to develop current and future teachers so they can develop the necessary skills to effectively communicate science, technology, engineering, and mathematics education to all stakeholders, better known as STEM. Mr. Huff is now able to continue to provide insight into key policy discussions at the local, state, and federal levels, which will ultimately affect all of our district students. To do this, they must understand key educational issues and possess a strong working knowledge about outreach techniques and practices that can affect change in the K-12 STEM education community. During a week-long summer training in Washington, D.C., STEM teacher ambassadors meet and learn from inside the Beltway leaders on major issues, including key federal STEM programs, the role of impact of STEM research, professional learning and growth, equity, standards, assessments, teacher training, and much more. It is evident to me that Mr. Huff is extremely dedicated to the teaching profession in the Williamsville Central School District. Please join me in congratulating Mr. Huff.
Thank you, Mr. Calandra, for your kind words. And thank you to the Board of Education for the invitation to attend your meeting this evening. One of my new roles as a STEM ambassador is to communicate key messages in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics education. Please allow me a moment to share some important information as it pertains to science education. We begin this school year working with a new set of science learning standards. Passed by the Board of Regents last December, these standards are based upon a framework for K-12 science education, a consensus report from the National Research Council, and the Next Generation Science Standards. Our previous set of standards were 21 years old. As we begin new science standards implementation here in Williamsville, we must first rethink our goals of science education and ask why before deciding on the what and the how of science teaching and learning. It is not enough to promote more science instruction of the traditional kind. What is our plan to build capacity within our teachers on the innovations of these new standards? What should science learning in our classrooms look like under these innovations? How do we plan to address the 6 critical components of the New York State Education Department's statewide strategic plan for science education? How are we moving toward what the research shows to be a quality science education experience for our children? Are we doing all we can to honor, acknowledge, and prioritize science teaching and learning? Having a solid foundation in science education is essential for all of us. Our students will be called to make decisions on emerging diseases, energy sustainability, and severe weather, drawing on practices learned in our science classrooms. In speaking with some of you on opening day, you also emphasized the importance of understanding science, not only for you, but your own children. The new vision of science education and the transformations they bring and how research supports children learn science will require our ongoing attention. I was reminded by one of the writers of the Next Generation Science Standards that at the core of this new vision for science education are children. It is not about waiting for a timeline from the State Education Department or what the Board of Regents decides about a test. In closing, there are many people I would like to thank this evening. My selection as a STEM ambassador would not be possible with the support of colleagues here in our district. To my teaching colleagues at Mill Middle and throughout the district, thank you. I remain grateful for all that I have learned from them throughout my career. This recognition provides me the opportunity to thank our Director of Communication, Rita Wolf, for coordinating STEM Ambassador Program media requests, her work in helping coordinate several past astronaut visits to our school district, and outreach for our annual Moon Madness event held at the planetarium. Thank you to Mill Middle Principal Michael Calandra for his vision in endorsing opportunities I have sought out because he recognizes they are congruent with 1, the Board of Education goal of advocacy, 2, the district goal of instruction, and 3, as a way to support student learning and achievement. Thank you to Assistant Superintendent for Instruction Marie Balin, Superintendent Scott Martzloff, and to you, the board, for recognizing the value of the opportunity and your continued support of my efforts in science education. Thank you to our instructional specialist for science education, Thomas Bird. Tom continues to be a great resource for the new research in science education, and he encourages teachers to implement new strategies based upon this research. He works hard to arrange meaningful professional development consistent with how students best learn. Tom is always there when needed and is willing to listen to the needs of teachers as we work together to support children in learning science. It is an honor to work with all of you and for you in service to our children here in the Williamsville Central School District. Thank you for this recognition.
Are there any board acknowledgements? I would like to acknowledge this year's very positive opening day and thank the WTA for sending out a very positive letter to all the employees, encouraging everyone to work together to keep the Williamsville School District highly successful and a model for collaborative leadership. And thank the board, the WTA, and Dr. Martzloff for opening these lines of communication again and allowing us to openly stress our concerns and having a good dialogue. So thank you. Mrs. Beeger, would you please read the board's public expression?
Sure. Welcome to all who have come to observe this regular board meeting. Per Policy 1510, the board has set aside 30 minutes for public expression, a time when we invite members of the community to share ideas and concerns with us. We welcome this opportunity to hear from you. However, in order that different issues can be heard, we discourage repetitive statements. Each person is given 3 minutes to address the board. You will be signaled with a yellow flag at 2.5 minutes so that you can conclude your remarks. This is a meeting held in public rather than a public meeting, which means we will not be engaging in dialogue with members of the community this evening. Rest assured, we are listening carefully and we take seriously what you have to say. I would also like to ask you to demonstrate respect for one another by speaking to the issues, giving ideas, sharing opinions, but not engaging in personal attack. Thank you for your cooperation. Our first speaker this evening is Michelle Light.
Good evening. Although you have already seen it, we would like to publicly share with you the message that the WTA Exec Board sent to our members and other district staff members last week. On Thursday, August 31st, the members of the WTA Exec Board met with Dr. Martzloff and 4 members of the Board of Education for nearly 4 hours in an effort to address the concerns of all parties present and begin the process of moving the district forward after 3 years that were a great challenge to our district. Dr. Martzloff made a strong step in that direction in his opening day speech on Tuesday, and we believe that our meeting on Thursday was a second step in the process of healing. In that meeting, our specific concerns were aired and addressed by the superintendent in detail. We would like to thank Dr. Martzloff for his sincerity and acknowledgement of the concerns that members and other constituents had raised. He was genuine and forthcoming and exhibited a desire to make real progress toward working together for the Williamsville School District. The Board of Education members present, the superintendent, and the WTA Exec Board all agreed that this was a positive, productive meeting that will return our district to its highly successful and collaborative leadership model. Those present agreed that the #1 area for improvement was communication. Our plan is to reconvene as a group again before the end of 2017 to provide another opportunity to collaboratively seek ways that the communication can be strengthened with all stakeholders in the district in order to avoid future problems from arising. We applaud the current Board of Education for facilitating and taking part in this meeting and for its sincerity in the effort to find solution and do what's best for everyone involved. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker this evening, Helene Sanders.
Hi, Helene Sanders, 171 Autumn Creek Court. I don't know if this even needs to be addressed, but at the North PTSA meeting, certainly Suzanne knows, we discussed class rank and what we feel, about elimination. And surprising to me, the elimination, the question was, could we do it sooner? We wanted to eliminate it, and can we please do it sooner? Was our general feeling. So I just wrote as a mom how I felt about it with my kids, and I obviously favor eliminating it, but let me see what I wrote. As an Ivy League parent, I was concerned about the elimination of class rank, but now I realize it doesn't matter. My older one, who was interested in 3D animation, will be ranked according to, that's 4, not 5, 4 major subject areas. His lowest grade is math. It pulls down his entire average. He makes honor roll now. He would not make honor roll if his math grade counted in his rank. So I, certainly for him, I mean, he wants to do something artistic, so he will be based on a portfolio, not necessarily grades. My younger one, who's a much better student and in some advanced classes, and I expect AP, left his flash drive. Couldn't find his flash drive this morning and left his homework in his bio textbook, so he's not winning any awards for his organizational skills. And this was only week one. When we were in Tampa before the hurricane, I have to say, we took my older one to the University of South Florida just to see how the process worked for him. He was the type of student that needs a little more guidance. And I don't know I can't base anything on one college visit, but apparently, from what admissions told us, is that they're going to re-rank him anyway. So they're going to decide what's important, and the board isn't, and the parents aren't, and the school isn't. So I'm fine with that. I think everything should count. How many courses taken, advanced AP, scores, test scores, clubs, sports, and I hope even community service, that there could be more of that. So I don't see any benefit to keeping class rank, and would support having it eliminated sooner.
Thank you. Our last speaker this evening is Ron Schubert.
Good evening, everyone. I have to first say I'm speaking as a parent and not as a representative of PTSA Council. When the time comes that I do speak as a representative of PTSA Council, I'll say so. But tonight I'm speaking as a parent. I wanted to say again something about class size. I noticed in the report that all of you are looking at tonight that I think this is the first year that we really did a fantastic job in staying within the guidelines for all grades. At least it's the first time that I saw it as close as it is within guidelines. I want to commend the superintendent, Dr. Martzloff, the assistant superintendents for the work that you did, because I know it's never been an easy job to stay within those guidelines, and it's looking really good. So, positive comment on that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, those are all our speakers signed up for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Could someone like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda and addendums as presented? Mr. Mecca, is there a second? Mrs. Van Cise, any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the, excuse me?
The consent agenda, where we move the personnel item, correct?
I think that's reordered under,
Under consent agenda. Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
would someone like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting held on August the 8th, 2017? Mrs. Van Cise, second. Dr. McClary, any discussion or corrections to the minutes? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Motion carries 801. Sorry, 701.
Oh, six.
I can count. 601. Thank you. Would someone like to make a motion to resolve to approve the appointment of Moira Cooper, Esquire, as the hearing officer for Civil Service Law, Section 71 and Section 73 hearings, and to authorize the President of the Board of Education to sign said resolution as presented? Twister. Mrs. Beeger, second. Mrs. Vasquez, any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Would someone like to make a motion to resolve to approve the appointment of Jeffrey Liebrock as the acting assistant principal at East High School effective August the 28th, 2017, with a stipend of $400 per day to be received for a period to be determined? Mrs. Van Cise, second. Mr. Mecca, any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Would someone like to make a motion to resolve to approve the appointment of Dr. John McKenna as Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources effective November 1st, 2017, per the contract as agreed? Mrs. Van Cise, second. Mrs. Vasquez, is any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Dr. Martzloff, would you like to introduce the board?
Sure. We are thrilled and excited to have with us a true leader in the education world of New York State. Dr. John McKenna has been a principal for almost 2 decades. He's been a teacher prior to that for 7 years. He's been the president of the School Administrators Association of New York State at the state level for the past year. He's been a leader in Seidel, helping to develop other leaders within Western New York. He's been parts of different committees for the Commissioner of Education at the State Education Department, and he has a wealth of knowledge and experience in the area of human resources, and we gratefully look forward to him getting started soon. And I'd like to introduce the board and our school community here in Williamsville to Dr. John McKenna.
Well, thank you very much. I am honored to be here this evening and to receive this appointment. A couple of remarks I do need to make tonight. And first to the superintendent and the Board of Education, thank you so much sincerely for this opportunity. It's an outstanding opportunity and one that I take very seriously, and one that you'll see I'll work diligently for the students and parents and staff here for Williamsville schools. It's an honor and privilege to be a part of the Williamsville team. When I think of Williamsville, and you think about a district so dedicated to students, to making sure that kids get the very best, you have earned a stellar reputation for academic excellence across this region and across this state. And I can tell you, as the president of SANES, I get a chance to get across the state, and I've had a chance to work with a lot of different districts across New York State. And Williamsville is known all across the state as a place where stellar education happens and kids come first. Also, when I was the region chairman for SANES for 6 years, I got a chance to work with basically about 100 districts across Western New York on a regular basis. And I can tell you what Williamsville was to us in this district. It's the go-to district. This is the place where it's done right. When you want to know, when we refer people to good policies, practices, procedures, programs, we tell people to contact folks in Williamsville. And this is the place where we would reach out to for help and support for school districts all over across this region. And even tonight, when I see Mr. Huff here, and I see that, now think about that, a national STEM coach right here in Williamsville. That's the reason that Williamsville is number one, because there's a lot of folks like him too. And congratulations to Mr. Huff again for that amazing honor that he received. But that's what Williamsville is all about. It's about being the best, and first and foremost, doing what's right for kids. And that's what I wanted to say. It's the most important quality that I saw with this district. And the biggest draw for me when I got the chance to come here was that the needs of students are put first here in Williamsville. And it's evident every day and in every way. Everyone I know, staff, parents, family members who send their children here, all say the same thing, that this is the best district in Western New York. There's so much pride in the schools when you talk to the parents in this area. There's so much trust in the schools. When parents send their kids off to school, they know they're going to get a high quality education and they're going to get it done right. And that's the reason I chose this district for my own family. I wanted to share that I just recently moved into the district, and I'll be getting married in October to my fiancée Caroline, and our daughter is going to Transit Middle School. And so this is, when we got together, this past year, this is before I knew I was going to get this job. I said, where do we want Emily to go to school? It was in Williamsville. So this was the decision that we made for our family to come here. So when I had the opportunity to work in a district and live in a district and have my daughter come to school in the district, I thought, oh my goodness, that I don't think it gets any better than this. So it was just a thrill when it all worked out. And I'm excited to be part of the Williamsville team, and I'm really excited about working with all of you and all of the incredible educators that are here in this district. And in closing, I guess on behalf of myself and my family, I just want to say thank you. I'm looking forward to working with all of you, and I'm looking forward to get to know all of you. One of the things I want to do is I want to get around the district, and I want to get a chance to meet our teachers, our parents, our students, and of course, all our administrators. I know a lot of them already, but I'm looking forward to really personally getting to know as many people as I can. And again, from the bottom of my heart, I thank you for this opportunity and truly look forward to working with all of you. Thank you again.
Thank you and welcome. The August graduation was held on Monday, August the 21st at 6 p.m. in the district boardroom. Dr. Marsloff, anything to report on that?
No, this year we had, as I mentioned at a previous board meeting, a little bit more of an informal event where students and their families could come and attend, and we had 3 students attend a breakfast meeting, and students received their diplomas, and it was a nice opportunity for each of them.
Thank you. New teacher orientation breakfast hosted by the Board of Education was Tuesday, August the 22nd at 7:45 in the morning at Sean Patrick's Restaurant. Dr. McClary and I attended. Opening day for staff was Tuesday, August the 29th. Mrs. Vasquez, Mrs. Van Sice, and Dr. McClary and I all attended. All coming up, let's see here, the new field opening ceremonies. These are coming up, as we all know, starting this week. I need to know who will be attending and if you're bringing a spouse or a child so that we can set up proper seating. So for this Friday, September the 15th at 6:15 at South High School, who will be attending? Okay, 2 for Mrs. Vasquez. Anybody else? Okay, I will be in attendance as well. Fortunately, my family will be at the soccer game going on the field right next door to it, so I will be the only one attending. The following week, September the 22nd, at 6 p.m., East High School. That's, again, a Friday night. Who can attend that one? Mr. Mecca, how many?
To be determined.
To be determined, okay.
Myself for certain.
Okay. Will you please let the district clerk know when you know?
Will do.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mrs. Beeger, how many?
5.
5.
Well, I mean, could spouse and children, really?
I love it. Sure.
Okay.
Please.
If that's okay with the district, I can also just come myself.
That's fine.
My spouse and I are both the Williamsville East alumni.
Okay.
So,
Who else? Anybody?
Yes. I'll add myself to that list. I'll follow up with Mitzi with respect to my spouse.
Okay. Mr. Meyer, thank you. I will be in attendance as well. Again, unfortunately, with a daughter who plays varsity soccer for South, I will be soloing it at the event. Anybody else? Okay, Wall of Fame breakfast. Once every 2 years, the Williamsville Education Foundation hosts a fundraiser to induct honored alumni in the Williamsville Hall of Fame. This year's event will be held on Friday, October the 27th at Park Country Club. One of the honorees is Board Past President, Mr. Ron Schubert. I hope you will support this event. An invitation is at your place at the table. Please mail your response with your check in the enclosed envelope. The Erie County Association of School Boards. I attended the ECASB Leadership Reception on August the 24th. The report on that is in your packet. Dr. McClary, would you like to report on the Delegate Assembly meeting last week, please?
Yes, that was my first opportunity to attend an Erie County meeting, and I really enjoyed meeting people from all of the other districts and hearing about events in their schools and the opening days and so forth. The biggest point that happened was the introduction of a new executive director. Dr. Bruce Frazier will now be heading up the Erie County Association of School Boards. Dr. Frazier has a great deal of experience in the area and has been involved in a lot of different schools and different committees and councils and so forth. So he brings a nice excitement and the opportunity that Erie County is going to continue to stay active and involved, and is looking to perhaps pursue some ways to enrich at the Erie County level. On October 5th, there is a fall leadership dinner for Erie County Associations of School Boards, and I think the rest is in my report.
Great, thank you. Are there any other Erie County Association of School Board Committee reports? No. New York State School Board Association, the 98th Annual Convention. 3 board members have been registered to attend the convention in Lake Placid, October the 11th through the 14th. I will serve as their delegate. Mr. Meyer will serve as the alternate, and Mrs. Leatherborough was registered but has advised that she will no longer be able to attend. Is there anyone who would like to attend in her place? No. I'm also registered to attend the pre-law conference. I believe that is on the 11th as well. The board has been given the proposed resolution for the convention, and I would like to take some time to review these proposals. Past practices, the board has just kind of left it to the delegate to decide. I'd like to kind of change that practice. You all in your packet did receive the resolutions from the New York State School Board Association. I'm assuming you've all reviewed them. Normally, there's a resolution committee at the New York State School Board Association that makes recommendations to its members. Resolutions 1 through 25 this year, the committee has recommended for approval. Resolutions 26 through 31, they have recommended to not be approved. I will be voting, unless we discuss and determine differently this evening, in agreement with everything that they recommended, with 3 exceptions. Those 3 exceptions starts with resolution number 8, which is resolved that the New York State School Boards Association supports legislation to amend the Triborough Amendment and the Taylor Law to eliminate the the obligation of school districts to pay step increments after the expiration of the collective bargaining agreements. I would vote no on this. I believe the history that we don't need to make any modifications to the Triborough Amendment are required. It's worked well for the last 20 some odd years, preventing strikes and whatnot. I believe it's just fine the way it is. Any discussion on that? Any concerns? Yes, Mr. Mecca?
Sean, I'd just like to thank you for reviewing these with you, because as you say, this is kind of a break with previous practice, and I think that it's nice of you to offer to receive our input on your voting. So I'd like to thank you for that. I am in agreement with your voting on that resolution.
Okay. The next 2 fall under the not recommended resolution, their resolution committee. Resolution number 28 resolved that the New York State School Boards Association supports legislation that would allow the counties directly or through a third-party contractor to verify compliance with required registration in the state sex offender registry. The committee's thinking, and they got kind of caught up on the terminology here, of or through a third-party contractor, and their concerns over the idea of outsourcing law enforcement responsibilities to provide third-party vendors. I don't agree with their thinking in this. I believe that law enforcement action and any liability would be required of these third-party contractors, and I don't believe that this should be holding back promoting legislation to allow this enforcement. It's not written that they're looking for legal enforcement of this. It's just looking for confirmation of the sex registry, and I believe that any third-party contractor that could hypothetically be contracted would be liable to provide that proof on their own that they're liable and prepared to do that kind of stuff. So I will be voting to approve that resolution, to allow that to move forward. Any questions or comments or concerns on that? Okay. Resolution 29, resolved at the New York State School Board Association Annual Business Meeting, resolutions shall be discussed in the order that they are received by the association, with the exception of the bylaw resolutions, which should be discussed first. This comes about because, similar to our own board meetings, you have to have a quorum in order to have a vote. And how the current agenda is set up is that the recommendations of the committee come first, and then the recommendations that are not, the non-recommended resolutions are then put in afterwards. In both 2014 and 2015, this has caused the room to empty out, which has caused a lack of quorum, or a quorum was lost, and thus these resolutions are not voted on. The meeting is adjourned at that point. So the idea of this resolution is to put them in order as they are received. It does not change Robert's rules as to how they get voted or approved on. So I am in support of this resolution. Again, the resolution committee is against this resolution, so I plan on voting to the positive on this. Any discussion on that?
Oh, sorry, Mary goes first.
The speaker?
I just agree with you. I think for people to leave early, that they're not fulfilling their obligation to be there, representing their districts and their role as a board member. So for there to be something set in place so that they could leave after the important issues are gone, I support you. I think that I don't think that they should be able to reorder so that the quorum could be lost for some issues that are also important to some people.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for taking a closer look at that.
Mr. Mecca?
Yeah, I share the same sentiment. I've been to events like this where people are traveling from different locations, and slowly throughout the day there becomes fewer and fewer people to vote on various issues. And when they can set the order in any way that they would like, they would probably set the order so that the ones they want to see approved are first, and then the ones that they don't want to see approved are later, so that there's not a quorum. So that's a nice way to game the system on their part, and I don't think it's fair. So I'm glad that you'll be voting in favor of ordering the items in the agenda based on when they come in. Thank you.
Thank you. And that was the three that I deviated from. Does any other board members have any other questions or concerns regarding any of the 31 resolutions? Okay, thank you. Moving on. Board Officers Academy. Mrs. Leatherbarrow attended the Board Officers Academy in Rochester on August the 11th. A report was included in the packet. Are there any other New York State School Board Association matters that anyone would like to discuss at this time? All right, community forums. If we want to get the word out to remind everyone to mark your calendars for our first community forum this year, it will be, has everybody got a pen out? Saturday, November the 18th, 2017 at 9 a.m. until noon, and we will be taking place at East High School. The first board retreat this year will be held in the district office boardroom. We will try to secure another site for our second board retreat in February. The 2017-2018 board goals. I would like to ask the board goals implementation plans be projected for our discussion, and then let's review the goals and activities and come up with implementation plans that can be agreeable by all. Okay, so for our board, district, and community engagement, we had foster and enhance relationships while continuing to improve two-way communication with students, families, and community stakeholders. The first few activities that are up on the screen here are the previous year's activities. So the first one, serve as liaisons to PTA, PTSA, and set the meetings and submit liaison reports with an ongoing timeline. Board members should complete liaison reports 100% of the time and share board-related contacts with the fellow board members. Any questions, concerns regarding this? Should we look at changing that? Is this okay to proceed?
I think it's good.
Okay. Number 2, showcase the work of the district subset groups at regularly scheduled board meetings. Again, an ongoing timeline. Identify at least one group that would be willing to attend a board meeting and give a brief presentation on their group's mission, goals, and activities. Looks good. Something we can keep and move forward. Okay. Respond to individuals who contact or speak before the board. Again, ongoing. Listen and acknowledge all feedback from stakeholders.
Yes.
Change this in any way? Keep it?
I think we should always keep that.
Just
Mecca?
point of grammar, perhaps listen to and acknowledge.
Listen to and acknowledge. Okay. Perfect. Thank you. Number 4, hold 3 board community forums throughout the year. We will have one in November, January, and in April. Forums are offered and attended by community members. I'm assuming we want to keep this. Hoping we want to keep this. Not that I'm biased in any way here. Good. Visit all the schools in the district facilities throughout the year to listen to employees. We've scheduled visits and other activities. Board president to complete a report on each visit representing information shared by all board members in attendance. Strive for at least 3 board members to in attendance for each visit. Sounds good? Flying right through this.
Yeah.
Number 6, schedule 3 meetings with union leaders potentially being held in, and this is a new action item, September, December, and April. Board and superintendent to meet with various union leaders and their executive committees throughout the school year. Again, this is a new action item. What is the thought process on this?
I would agree with that, particularly given the contention that's taken place in the past few years. I think it's important to keep the avenues open for them to converse and air their grievances and address the same. So I like this action item.
Okay. Mr. Mecca?
I know we've met with the WTA at this point. How would we open up our availability or willingness to meet with other unions should they desire to do that? And I see the way that it's worded kind of provides for that openness, but I wonder how we could indicate our openness a little more strongly.
Suggestions? Should we write it in this?
Perhaps, yeah, perhaps. Maybe we want to put a letter together or something from the board or from the board and the superintendent saying that, one of our goals this year is to meet with union leaders, and we are open to possibilities should you desire to engage in this type of discussion.
Okay. I like that item. Other comments on it? Mrs. Beeger?
I think that this is an important and a positive addition to the activities here to support this goal. The first meeting that we had really helped with a lot of misconceptions and miscommunications that have taken place, which is likely to happen when parties aren't always talking. And I guess I'll say representatives of these different parties to come together at the table and talk in the best interest of our schools and our students and our community, it's really positive. It's written openly, schedule 3 meetings for union leaders, and it doesn't specifically say WTA, WAA, it does, all the different unions in our district. And I think that that's okay, because I don't think we should narrow this just to union leaders in our teachers union. Whether or not other union leaders in the district are interested in sitting down and just as a way of communicating and making sure everybody's on the same page with issues, I think it's positive. I don't know if we want to tailor or change the language, because if we become too specific, then we may not necessarily meet the activity.
Should these be 3 individual meetings with each of the union leaders? Should these be combined meetings? I can see that can be misconstrued based on how it's worded here. Mr. Mecca?
Let's not get carried away and set the bar too high, would be my first impression. But that would be a minimum of attainment, right? So having 3 meetings. If we put a letter out and every single union that we negotiate with as a school board wants to sit down and meet to discuss various items, then we could have more than 3 meetings. But I don't think we should specify more than 3. I think we, especially since this is a new goal, let's keep to 3 to keep it realistic, and then as a minimum. But perhaps there will be more than 3.
Do we need to spell out
At least.
at least 3?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, schedule a minimum of 3 meetings with union leaders. Is it okay that these would be combined meetings potentially, or should these be individual meetings? Union leaders.
I think in the beginning, it probably should be 3 separate meetings. We may find there are some commonalities and issues that could benefit from a discussion of everyone, but I think we need an experience separately first and then mesh them together if it seems to work out
Okay.
as a need.
Any other comments on this? Mrs. Beeger?
I agree with that. I think the goal here is improving two-way communication with the different stakeholders. So we've set a precedent now that we've started and tried that seem to be very good, that we can continue. And if other groups or stakeholders in the district are interested in meeting with the board and superintendent, this activity here provides that forum to know that we're interested and always willing to listen, but it's not mandatory. It's not another meeting unless it's wanted.
Correct. Yeah, I think we're going into this with, there's no agenda, it's just an open meeting, so. So they could decline if they wanna, if they don't wish to meet. From the board's point of view, it would be, we can't have a quorum, obviously, so we would have to have 3 or 4 people, I guess, nominated to sit in on this, similar to how we did with the last meeting. Do we want to put together and I hate to use the word formally, but a board committee that does these meetings always, or do we want to at each time, bring it back to the board to reevaluate that? My only concern on that would be timeliness. If we bring it back to the board, we have to wait for another meeting before we can. Mr. Mecca?
I would say we should wait and see what type of reception we get, and based upon the timing of any particular meeting, certain people may be available or may not be available. So I see the membership as changing depending upon the meeting.
Okay. Speaker?
I think it's okay to leave that loose. I do know at the last meeting we discussed that it might be beneficial to have the same people around the table if possible, just because we were all part of that beginning conversation. But again, schedules and things that come up, I don't think we need to put rules on it, but it might be nice to strive for the same group of people meeting,
Okay, fair point.
at least for this year.
Fair point.
Sean, can I just?
Yeah, Mr. Mecca?
I really agree with what Mary said for certain. For instance, there's already a group that has met with the WTA. If possible, to keep that group stable would be beneficial. But I think as new bargaining units, other bargaining units wish to meet with us, then perhaps we would establish a different group of board members depending upon availability and interest. And then if that seems to go well with that particular group, then we would want to keep that constituency the same for that group as well.
Okay, fair. Any other comments on this? Seems like we're kind of in agreement for this new bullet point, so we'll leave it in. Okay, moving on. Student wellness. I know it's different than what's up there, so I'm going to read what's up there. Support physical, mental, and emotional needs of students by providing necessary, appropriate resources for wellness programs and initiatives. I think those are accurate up there. Number 1, monitor and review the annual wellness report and use data to guide decision-making. For example, mindfulness initiative, the K-4 recess program. The timeline is ongoing, I believe, and reports presentation by the wellness committee. Okay, keep this. Any comments, concerns on it?
I just think we need to add ongoing to the timeline.
Yep. Just put ongoing in the timeline, please. Middle column. Yep. For the first one, first row. Nope, number 1. Middle column. Yep. Just type ongoing, please. Thanks. Perfect. Number 2. Introduce new programs to help with the opioid epidemic as well as mental health. Timeline by year end. Request district introduce new programs to educate both students and parents at all levels of our education system, not just the middle and high. Programs should be tiered to offer more support and assistance for those in need at the later grades. Programs should offer a way for help 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This could be by teaming up with existing services or introducing new services. All aspects should promote what signs to look for and not and not to wait to act now. So that's a mouthful. Thoughts from the board members on this one? Yes.
I certainly support the goal, and I support the activities. I'm not sure that that's something that could be accomplished by year end. I think it certainly is something that can be looked at, and we could hear progress from the people involved who would be doing this. But I kind of read that as saying, okay, by June 1st, we're going to get a piece of paper that says in December we had this, in February we had that, and that may happen and it may not. It would be wonderful if it did, but I think maybe it needs to be more, it needs to be studied, and not that it needs to be studied, but that the timeline could be that it was investigated, not that every 2 months we had a program, because then you're tying the hands of the people who would be doing the presentations. You know, maybe in December, no great speakers available, or maybe this particular committee had just met, and so they're not ready to meet again right away. So I'm completely supportive of the goal and the activities. Just change the way, couldn't that just also say ongoing?
You could go ongoing. Let me tell you, from a business point of view, when you set goals and you're trying to put action items against them, you want to be responsive to that. And in order to assess those goals and see how you're doing, you need to put clear-cut deadlines onto it. Although I do see your point on this too. So let me actually ask Dr. Martzloff, what do you think on this goal? How does this correspond to the district's goals and timelines, and is this obtainable?
I don't really see this as a board goal. This is a district goal. And as a district goal, I think before you start talking about introducing new programs, it would make sense for the board to take a look at what currently exists in the district and take a look at that and see what we have going on already before you decide to add to it. I also think it's problematic, as big as the opioid problem is, particularly for ages 20 and up, to say something about a 24/7 program. As much as we're a school district that supports our students and supports the mental health needs of our students, and I don't want anyone to take this the wrong way, we are not a social service agency. We don't do 24/7 care. You know, are there other agencies that do? Yes, and we connect our children, our families to those agencies all the time currently when there's a problem, whether it's opioids or some other problem. I think it also behooves the board to take a look at, is the opioid epidemic impacting Williamsville students? And if so, to what degree? Is it something that is a true concern within our high schools currently? I think some of the research is bearing out that it's typically when young people are a little bit older, perhaps in college or after college, that this is a much more pronounced issue. So I guess I would just caution the board with this particular goal because of these reasons.
Yes.
I totally agree with Dr. Martzoff. That's exactly what I was thinking. The way it's worded, the board would introduce new programs. We are not in that role. If we want to turn it and change it to say something like continue to receive reports on wellness programs and mental health, we've received those reports. We love to hear that, sources of strength, all of those things. That's our role as board members, to make sure that these things are going on and to see how they're being implemented and that they are useful to our students.
Yeah, as to the relevancy of it, I think it's clear that there is an opioid issue in our town. The fact that a clinic is looking to move into Amherst speaks to that. They go where there are people who are affected, who are addicted, and they're looking to come into our community. They're not coming here because nobody's addicted. They're here because people are addicted. Now, I'm about 15 years removed from high school. I went to Williamsville East, but I can personally attest to the fact that there are children in our schools who have become addicted and who have overdosed, who have come very close to dying from this drug. It's not a matter of becoming a clinic per se for these children, but the school certainly can be a resource in terms of pointing them in the right direction, a resource for the parents who are dealing with their child who's in school who's become addicted. It's not a matter of having a full-fledged clinic. It's a matter of being a resource to your students, to the children, in all facets of their life. And I think my expectation when I send my child to school is that there are resources available to them, and that if that were to happen to them, we would be there to point them in the right direction. So I think this is a good goal, and I think the school, this board, this district can play a role in pointing them in the right direction. I think we can do something productive, and I would hate to see this goal be eliminated.
Mr. Macco?
May I make a suggestion? Because I think there was a lot of value in what Dr. Martzloff said, and I think there's a lot of value in what Mr. Meyer said. And I think we can probably merge those two ideas by saying that the board will facilitate new programs or help create circumstances, something to that effect. And then with respect to the activity, though, I think the activity itself has to change significantly. And I think the things that Dr. Martzloff was saying about get a handle on what is currently provided, that would be like step number one in terms of facilitating the district's introduction of new programs. And then, perhaps there would be follow-up steps in terms of activities.
So perhaps rewording encourage new as well as continue to improve existing programs to help with opioid epidemic as well as mental health, something along those lines?
I suppose so. Just to follow up on what Mark was saying, I mean, the way I would envision it, I don't claim to be an expert in this field, but there are experts out there, and so the way I envision attacking this issue is to, do an immediate kind of study on your own district. To what extent has this issue affected us, and what's the answer to that? And the people that are going to answer those questions are the professionals in this area. So I'd like to bring in professionals to speak to the board, to speak to the principals at different schools, to speak to people in our health counseling areas, and then come up with a program, because it's not up to the board to come up with the nitty-gritty details of what the program looks like. It's up to us to come up with what our goal is, and then to delegate to professionals who know what to do, and tell them this is our goal, tell us how we reach it. And so that's how I envision us going about this issue. So I have no problem personally with kind of a broad, well, I don't want to say a broad goal. I mean, it's got to be specific. But I have no problem giving professionals a broad discretion in how they go about reaching that goal.
Okay, Mrs. Speaker?
I agree that I think our role is not to facilitate or introduce programs, but our role is to support these programs if we find validity and importance in them. At our community forum last year, there was a number of parents that just started this conversation about just their concerns about what's in high schools and what their kids are subject to. I believe, and maybe Dr. Sierra, if you'd like to speak to this, I know that this isn't something that our district ignores by any means. That I know our children are educated in drug use. What I think could be a goal for us to support is not just support those issues that our schools are already doing. Step one, we need to find out and learn a little bit better about what our district is already doing. But then that next step of making sure that our community is also involved in that. So if stakeholders have other ideas or wants or needs, whether it be the students or the teachers or the parents, a safety net, places to go or talk to, those things may already exist and maybe they're just not publicized, or maybe we need to help support that or publicize that. I don't know. I don't think our role is to create them, but I do think a great goal would be to learn more exactly about what we do, what we know is happening, and how we can support those who have the background here to continue promoting healthy lifestyles for our children, and also support when they encounter these kinds of situations. And not just opioid epidemic, but other drug issues or mental health issues as well. Mm-hmm. Dr. Sierra, did you want to comment just in general about certain things that our district already does in this area?
Thank you. Sure. Thank you for the opportunity, Mrs. Beeger. We do have a full complement, thanks to the board's support of mental health professionals in the district. So our school psychologists, social workers, and school counselors meet with students regularly to provide intervention and supports, but also to triage students appropriately to community resources and working in partnership with families. In addition to that, what I was going to offer to the board, if you should be interested in this, is we conduct a search survey. We administer the search survey every 2 years to 8th, 10th, and 12th graders. And we are one of the districts in the town that has actively participated for many years. That provides us a good sense of the issues our youngsters are facing. We have a very good complement of participation, and our results are reliable. What that gives us is a very strong indication of what the areas of concern are in terms of substance abuse. That is partially what led to our required parent program that all of our parents of incoming 9th graders participate in, and our focus was driven by some of the results that we received. So what we understood from our data and from the reports of our building staff, teachers, administrators, mental health folks, related service providers, etc., was that our students were engaging in underage drinking and some pretty significant binge drinking at the time that when we analyze our results, as well as prescription medication use. So that's where we focused our energies. We also have, through Wellness Council, we get great feedback from our students and community members and understand that there had been some concerns with regard to e-cigarette use. So we do try to address the areas as they're brought to our attention through research and through anecdotal reports on an ongoing basis. So this year we happen to be administering the Search Institute survey in November. I cannot tell you with certainty when the report will be available to us, but it should be sometime in the spring. So one possible avenue for the board, which would give you some information, is if we presented those results, the district results, to the board. That would give you some idea of the information that we glean directly from our students.
How often is this Search Institute survey conducted? Is it annual? 2 years. I'm sorry, I misheard you. Other comments? So what I'm hearing on this is, how should we rewrite that? Encourage new and continue to encourage new and continue to support programs that address opioid epidemic and other mental health issues affecting the youth in our community. Does that sound about right as the action item, or as the goal, and then we can break out some action items which would include the survey in the spring? Mr. Mecca?
I think Mary might have hit on it. Is opioid epidemic a little too specific? And perhaps we should, or maybe it was Sue, maybe we should consider broadening that a little bit.
And just leave it as drug and other mental health? That's fine.
So instead of opioid epidemic, we could change that to drug use. I'm still hesitant about encourage new. I mean, if that was a recommendation of those looking at our programs, that's one thing. I that could stem from it, but I don't know if you necessarily throw the baby out with the bathwater.
What if we get rid of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 words? Just say support programs that address.
Yeah.
I like that.
Okay? Okay, so that would be the goal. How do we gauge it? What's the details going to be? It sounds like this is going to be ongoing and/or spring. I heard, to find out what extent this has affected us, which could be the Search Institute survey that comes out in November, but we wouldn't hear the results until spring. I hear we want to bring in pros. I hear we want to gauge what we already have versus what we should do.
So we'd like to receive reports.
Okay?
I know we've had a lot of PowerPoint presentations presented to us. The information we're given, it's our job to analyze that. That's what I'm thinking as our progress indicator, as a way that we are supporting the programs within the district.
So I would say receive report on Search Institute survey results, and that would be spring. Probably I'm going to say something along the lines of we got to tie this into the budget process. Hopefully this would be very early spring so that we could financially support any potential outcomes of the survey. You know, if it's new classes, new education programs. That might be an aggressive timeline, though.
It leads me to think, though, about the initial wording where it says support programs that address drug use. I'm wondering if instead of the word programs, we want to change that to something more open, like district initiatives, because our district hires many mental health professionals, and maybe they're using programs, and maybe, you know, they're just using aspects of their training with our students. But it's more than just a program. I think it's our people, and it's our responsibility, if we receive that report and we have a better understanding of what our students are seeing, that we support the mental health clientele in our district to ensure that our kids are being supported and also know how to handle tough situations.
And then that could lead into, we feel that there's a budgetary concern that we need to hire more staff, that would be a need from the reports and the data that we receive. We would then be able to support that as well.
Mr. Maka?
Along with that report on the Search Institute survey results, is it reasonable at that time to also have an overview of the supports that are in place and programs, or is that too much for one presentation? Or perhaps we'll list them as separate items, maybe. But I think we should probably have a survey of the programs and initiatives that are in place so that we're aware of them. I guess it doesn't have to even be a presentation, just as long as we have that information somehow.
Dr. Martzloff, your input?
I don't have anything else to add.
Okay.
May I ask a question about that survey? Does that tap into surveying students how well they feel they're supported, or no? I guess part of what I'm curious is the effectiveness of what we do, and if kids feel like they have a place to go, or if there's more we can do as a community to help in that arena.
It actually does have some questions with regard to youth as resources, boundaries, connections, because it's built along the 40 developmental assets. So really what we're looking at are the number of assets that youth have in our community. The greater number of the assets that you possess, the less risk-taking behavior you engage in, and the more protective factors you have. So greater number of thriving indicators. So it would give some of those indications as well.
Perfect.
Ms. Vasquez?
Yes, I sat in your seat last year, Sean. Sorry, Mr. LeMay. So I know how difficult this can be to painstakingly go through all this, but I do have to caution the board about being very careful about defining board goals and district goals, because I do think that this, like Dr. Marsloff indicated earlier, that this is a district goal. How can we as a board really support this goal or really follow through on this type of goal? I think we're mingling the two, and it's very easy to do, but we need to be mindful of that.
Fair. I think that's where I'm trying to tie it back into the budget. So if we receive a report and the Search Institute survey results in the spring with recommendations, then the second part of this should somehow tie into supporting recommendations in the academic budget, in the school budget.
Personally, I think it could be as simple as having, first off, evaluating our district. Two, having professionals come in, give their assessment, and then suggest how they would go about addressing the issue. Maybe they come back and say there is nothing to address because what you have in place is sufficient. I don't know that you can work into your budget something you don't know about. I don't know what the answer would look like because the professionals haven't given their assessment. What I'm looking for is that assessment.
Well, we do have professionals that work for the district.
Well, that's true. Well, I would like to do a formal assessment, something presented to the board on this particular action item. I'd like to explore it further, and I'd like to know what, if anything, we as a board can do for this district.
So how do we change this then?
Well, I don't know that you have to change it. I think number 2 is very broad. I think that falls within it.
So we'll receive a report and Search Institute.
For that to fall within.
Okay.
I think we can eliminate that paragraph that follows.
Right.
That's a nice intent, but really not our role.
Mm-hmm. That is district related, correct? Do we need another item under this, or do we feel this is sufficient? Mr. Mecca?
Perhaps I zoned off for a bit. When I heard some discussion about financing these initiatives or supporting these initiatives in the budget, so I don't know if this will be an overlap to that discussion. Hopefully not. I think that one of the actions that we take as a board is approving a budget that includes what we perceive as our highest priorities in the district, and in combination with the leaders in the district, other leaders in the district. So perhaps an action item could be surrounding that item. Make this a high priority in budget and budgetary considerations or something to that degree.
Yeah, just to follow up on that, for instance, do the folks that are addressing this for our district right now, do they need more resources? Do they feel that they're not being effective as they could be? And if so, why? What do they need? And is it something that the board can fund? These are I have a lot of questions, but I don't have the answers, and that's what I'm looking to facilitate here. I'm looking to have those questions answered, have someone do a formal assessment of our district.
So assess district resources and prioritize funding of initiatives, I don't know, or something like that.
Could we maybe start with a list of district resources that fall into this category? I think that may be the first step, that we can be told, as Dr. Sierra was saying, well, we do this, we do that, and so forth. So perhaps there already is some sort of list somewhere that says, these are resources that are available to students, blah, blah, blah. Or these are items that our school health professionals do on a regular basis or something. So maybe starting with what we already have and then looking at that and saying, all right, we do 12 things on topic A, but we only do one thing on topic B. Let's see if the district can take some resources and beef up that second one or something. But I think it's certainly important to talk about what we can do in the future, but I think we need to start with what do we already have and then move from there.
Ms. Beeger?
I have a thought. Maybe we can just kind of wrap this up and put it all together. We're going to receive this report in the spring. Perhaps along with this report, Dr. Sierra or perhaps other members of this group in our district could put together some thoughts matching the results of this versus what we have, the support we have. And from there, we have a whole other goal about making fiscally responsible decisions, but also, catering them to our needs in the district. So I think here, if we just say receive report on Search Institute survey, and include, not include another report, but include resources.
Recommendations?
Yes.
There you go.
Yes. I would trust their recommendations based on that information versus the conclusions I would draw. Mm-hmm. So I'd be more interested in recommendations from our mental health professionals in our district. And then I think that's it.
I think that catches everything.
Seem fair to everybody?
Yes. I think that would happen with the recommendations.
Okay. This is good. Move on.
Move on.
Okay. Number 3, encourage community education programs regarding drug use, creating safety networks, including health professionals and parent education. Parent, student, community feedback, possibly branch community forum into wellness forum for district. Health professionals, students, parents might sit on the panel to encourage open, honest conversations. I think this stemmed from various community forums with parents saying they didn't know what wellness programs there were. They didn't know what they could do for their kids. They didn't know, they think Bobby or Susie might be taking drugs. They didn't know what to do. So this comes out as a educational program. I am going to, put Mrs. Vasquez's quote out there of, is this a district goal or is this a board goal?
I was going to say that I think our district probably already does do a lot with community education. And so I don't think it needs to be our goal. And on the other side, I think yes, at a community forum, people have expressed concerns about various items that would fall into the wellness category. But I think a community forum and a wellness forum are two distinct entities.
And I recollect last year, didn't we have some sort of a wellness forum, Dr. Marsloff? I kind of vaguely remember in the middle of the year we did. Okay. Is that something we need to have more of, do you think, or you feel it was appropriate? Okay.
I think we can eliminate this one.
I do too.
Think we should eliminate this one?
I was going to say probably some of the findings that come out of number 2 will end up
And number 3?
with community or parent involvement. So you could probably eliminate number 3 totally.
Okay, so let's eliminate number 3. Sounds fair to everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you. Student achievement. Continue the work to support student learning, creativity, and engagement. So under this one, we have received data on instructional programs and student performance and use data to guide decision-making, ongoing, vote on issues before they are before the board by the superintendent. There is a comment here that this goal does nothing for us. We already do this, so it's suggested we keep it and or we suggest to delete it. So we're 50-50 on this one.
This is what number, you're talking about?
Number one.
I think we have to reword the progress indicators. Again, so we're going to receive the data on instructional programs and student performance and help us to guide decision-making. So as a progress indicator, we would want to analyze this information, the information given to ensure that these instructional programs are assisting in the improved student performance. You know, we're receiving the information. Our job is to look at it and make sure that it is leading to improve student performance, or that our students are performing. I don't want to get rid of it. I mean, this is our primary job, I think, is to make sure we're, meeting that goal, which is to support student learning. So by receiving these reports and going through it.
So word it for me.
So, I mean, someone can jump in here, but analyze information received, maybe to ensure that these instructional programs are leading to improved student performance or student learning.
Are we doing the analyzing?
Yes, because we're given these reports.
Okay,
It
so
is our
as a
job
board,
as the board
we are
to
doing the analyzing.
look at the information,
Okay.
Dissect it, process it, and say, yes, this is great. We see the results that you've shared with us. And that's either given in our board packet or it's presented at board meetings to us by our leadership team usually, or administration.
Mm-hmm. And Dr. Marsoff, please jump in if something jumps out at you here or you see an overlap in a district goal or something. I'd love to have your opinion on this too, please.
Okay.
So we would eliminate the other two lines and leave analyze information received to ensure these instructional programs are leading to improved student performance. And this would be left as a keep goal now then, correct? Or a keep action item?
Yes.
Okay, great. Moving on. Monitor program alignment with New York State standards and state requirements to report college and career-ready high school graduation rates. Function of the board or district admin? Question there. Receive reports on student achievement, and again, the same comment from before. We already do this. Do we need to reword this, delete this? What's the thought?
I feel like it's a subset of activity number one. I mean, that's just more specific way of saying
Right.
that we're analyzing information the district provides us about student performance. I don't think we need to restate it in a more specific way.
Okay. Everybody else feel the same way?
Mm-hmm.
So we should delete this? Okay, let's delete it. Back on activity number one, did we want to leave that as an open-ended timeline, or do we want to put a formal timeline on it? I forgot to ask that question. I'm assuming ongoing. I'll verify. Ongoing seems good? Okay. Moving on, number two. Now number two, which was formerly number three. Remain informed, and new wording added, and advocate on the issues affecting children and public education, including but not limited to legislative matters, the impact and changes in federal and state laws and regulations, including the New York State Reform Agenda, educational funding, and instructional program and circular enhancements. Ongoing. The suggestion here, delete the original progress indicator, which was continued involvement in professional school board organization providing reports when attending attending events. And the new action item suggested here is meet at least once a year with state or, and it should probably say and or federal politicians and attend and be active in the Erie County Association of School Boards as well as the New York State School Board Association in their political endeavors. Mouthful. Clary?
I was going to say, part of it is interesting because when I was at the Erie County meeting, one of the goals that they were talking about is to become much more active in terms of looking at legislative matters, et cetera, et cetera. The only thing I would change is I would change politicians to legislators. Or elected officials.
Much better, yes.
Even better.
Elected officials.
Even better. Who's typing over there?
Thinking. Thank you.
Okay, so how it's been changed is, how's this sound to everyone?
Excellent,
I like it.
excellent. I don't know if political is the right
Yes,
word.
go ahead, Dr. Fallon,
Just a suggestion,
please.
the vernacular of the reform agenda, you don't in recent times tend to see that phrasing used. I would recommend that's replaced with priorities, New York State priorities, just to keep it to more of a modern connotation.
Point taken. Yep, I like that. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Anything else for this one? Okay, moving on. Next one. Yes,
Can I
Mr.
stop?
Micah?
My colleague over here was muttering something that I think made sense. Political endeavors, we're not, I think she was not quite sure that that was the right phrasing. And when she said that, I sort of thought about it.
Yes.
Sorry, don't mean to put you on the spot.
No, and it's certainly much already too late in the evening to look at the philosophical difference between political endeavors and investigating legislative matters. They're two different things. Well, okay.
No, so
So do you want to be involved in politics, or do you want to be involved in matters that affect our students?
correct. We want to be involved with matters that affect our students.
Okay.
I don't think we want to get into the political realm.
Why don't we just say attend and be active in Erie County
Yes.
Association School Board as well as NISBA, period.
Yes.
And just leave out the political endeavors that may be an part of it, but
Yep.
Good.
And hopefully the be active part would be the actual
the Cape
action
Fear
item.
schools.
Yep.
Okay.
Better? Thank you. Monitor the district's professional development plan is meeting data team goals, connects to district curriculum standards, and aligns with the New York State teaching standards and district APPR plan set forth by the district. Again, ongoing. Reports, presentations by the professional development committee and data team members. And this is another one that was flagged as does nothing for us, we already do this. So maybe this needs to be reworded.
But even if you do something, it doesn't mean that, okay, it's not a goal, so we should stop doing it.
Exactly, and that's why I'm kind of passionate about 1 and 3 now. This was our discussion last year, and you can tell they were mine. So we are given plans, the plans are given to us by the district every year to verify that they are meeting New York State standards along with their APPR plan. If you look at this month's packet, we were given the APPR, district goals, all of these things. So we are receiving these reports and having these presentations. It is our job to monitor that it is effective and leading to student achievement. So by removing that, I think you're taking away a massive activity that leads to this goal. That's my 2 cents.
No, that's appreciated. Thank you.
Leave it in, but obviously take away the last sentence.
Obviously. So we're happy with the way the progress indicator is on this, or do we want to change the progress indicator? Do we want to enhance the progress indicator? Sounds like we're happy with the way it is.
I think it's fine.
Okay, and then we're going to keep this.
Yes.
Okay, moving on. Board efficacy. Use technology to operate more effectively. Identify additional methods for increasing effectiveness. So activities. Transition to searchable digital format, and the word board packets has been crossed out. It will be transitioned to searchable digital format of packets, agendas, and attachment, and anything that is made available to both board members and the general public. That is all new verbiage, and anything that is made available to both board members and general public. This is an ongoing timeline for the progress indicator. Complete activity discussion and the November 4th retreat is left over from last year. I think that should just say potentially the retreat. I know the further action item says purchase required software, and there's a suggestion here to Adobe Acrobat, and then educate those involved with any information distribution on how best to prepare for this format. Move away from the scanning to PDF/OCR as ineffective. OCR, by the way, stands for optical character recognition. It is the process of taking a document, scanning it in, which basically takes a picture of it, and then having software look at it and decide what looks like text and try and interpret it backwards. Further on, encourage presentations to the board with handouts to also use this new format. Align board-related material on website. Currently, board packets is in this one area, presentations in a different area. Oh, I'm sorry. So I think what this is saying is on the district website, if a presentation at a board meeting is posted, that information is posted under that category, under the presentation, not under the board meeting notes. So I think it's saying align board-related material on the website so that if somebody goes and looks at a board meeting, they'll see all the notes and presentations for said previous board meeting and all future board meetings. So this is a little lengthy. It's a continuation of last year's goal, taking it to that next level.
Mr. LeMay, would
Yes.
Mrs. Wolf would like to contribute to that?
Yes, please.
I just wanted to say that we already addressed that last piece
Thank you.
at the end of last year per your suggestion.
Okay.
So beginning.
So we can delete that?
You can find everything in one spot, presentations, the school board notes,
Beautiful.
minutes, agenda, the video.
Beautiful.
In one spot.
Perfect. So, yep.
So that piece.
So the last sentence of this has already been obtained. Align board-related material, so we can delete that sentence. And thank you for doing that. Now, there are comments in this. I don't believe it's intended to be left in this state. Mrs. Beeger.
Perhaps rather than digging through this, it looks like last time in this transition we said complete activity discussion at the retreat. This may be something that we can leave as a goal and put a progress indicator. Maybe we can put a little part of our retreat around this idea. I don't know if it's necessary for us right now to decide programming or looking into costs or things like that. I don't know if that's the best use of our time right now, but I think that may be a good use of our time when we're together at a retreat if we're talking about how we can be more efficient as a board. So perhaps our progress indicator of this activity would be to continue this discussion at our retreat.
Okay. And yes, by the way, I think November 4th is the retreat, now that I'm thinking about it. I believe that is correct.
It is.
Yeah.
So, yep. So we can take, I think, most of these notes and maybe move them into the retreat notes, at which point we can discuss it there. Does that sound fair to everybody?
Yes.
Right, just.
Okay.
Just doing it.
Is the additional wording on the activity itself
Not necessary.
not necessary?
Oh, I'm sorry, on the indicators, not necessary.
Yes. So,
But, yeah.
so the indicator you got highlighted, delete that, and we'll move that to
Activity.
the to the board retreat notes. And anything that is made available to both board members and general public, is that agreeable? So we're taking it to that next level. I see a bunch of thumbs up and head nods.
Agreeable.
Okay. Approved. Okay. Moving on. Share all board-related correspondences through email with all board members. This is an old goal from last year. It's ongoing. Evaluate at spring board retreat. So we'll continue that. Schedule board time to monitor and evaluate board goals. Winter, springtime. Complete evaluation and present during public board meetings. This, I think, is a goal we had last year. I think we may have kind of hit on it a little bit. I think we need to spend a little more time probably this year in evaluating ourselves on this. So I'd like to keep this if everybody's in agreement. Yep, good. Hold 2 retreats to discuss the board operations and board development this fall and spring. Conduct retreats with board quorum and attendance. And we do have that going, and we are approved to continue this. Good. A new number 5 has been added here. That is transition to more technology efficient programs for evaluations and goal-setting activities. This is an ongoing, and new tools utilized like Super Eval, Google, New York State School Board Association, and I'm not quite sure what's supposed to.
The thought behind that was just the different tools that NISBA
That they might offer?
that are recommended or offers, just to look into those kind of items, which really could also piggyback off number 1.
And I'm going to say not ongoing. I'm going to say by fiscal year end. So that would be, June of 2018. Let's put a deadline on this. If we want to consider these things, let's look at them. I know last month we approved Super Eval. I know there's other modules for that the district will look into. We'll stay away from, but is that too aggressive, or does that seem fair?
I think it's fine because we're already working towards that goal.
Mm-hmm. Fair to everybody? Okay. Moving on. Budget development and fiscal oversight. Create and oversee a fiscally responsible budget that upholds the mission and values of the school community. There are 2 action items. Nothing is changing on these 2 action items. They're being carried over from last year. If you'd like, I can read these. If everybody's in agreement, we will just accept these as they are and move forward. Good? Okay. I think that's about it on the board goals. We'll point out that Mrs. Serafin has done a great job of printing out our school board goals and framing it and putting it behind us so that we can review it all year long. Thank you, Mrs. Serafin.
That was actually done with the assistance of other people, so I can't.
Duly noted. Thank you.
Facilitator.
You were the facilitator. Thank you. Superintendent's report, community update. Dr. Martzloff?
Yeah, I'm just going to combine my community update with our school opening report. We've had a terrific summer with a lot of professional development all across the district. We've had our administrative council retreat with all of our administrators, and we had presentations on a variety of topic areas. And it was a terrific learning opportunity for everyone who attended, as well as a great opportunity to set the table, if you will, for the coming school year. We had our new teacher orientation take place, in which we welcomed our 41 new teachers at the time to our school district, and we're excited to have them join the best educational team in New York State. And all of that led up to our opening day ceremony, where we did 2 separate presentations, one for the faculty and one for our staff, our support folks, and it was very positive and a nice opportunity to start the school year on a good note. And our school year has begun for our students in a very positive way. I've had a chance to visit all 13 of our schools during the first week of school, and all the reports from the principals were for a smooth opening. All of our students had their schedules set. Everyone was where they were supposed to be. Our transportation department really did a nice job in making sure they got off to an excellent start. I don't recall having so few complaints about transportation in the last 7 years, so certainly a positive start in that regard. I also checked in with our principals about our class sizes, and all of them were within Board of Education guidelines, so that was great to hear. And really, all of our principals are starting the school year in a very upbeat way, welcoming our students with enthusiasm and encouraging them to aspire to reach higher levels of academic excellence and supporting their social emotional needs both in and out of the classroom. So very positive report on the opening of school.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Next up, we have Judith Katz from Erie One BOCES Services giving us a presentation. Mrs. Katz?
Thank you very much, and thank you for asking me to come here. And thank you all for the service that you do for our district and keeping it the best district that we have. I had the honor of serving on this school board for 15 years. I also had the honor of serving as president of New York State School Boards. And I want to congratulate you on, unfortunately, Mr. LeMay left, but on discussing the issues that are coming before the delegation, because it's very important that school boards do that. I've also been a member of the BOCES board for a long time. Let me just tell you, I was asked to just give you some information about what it is to be a BOCES board member. We have 7 members on our board representing 19 school districts. We also provide services to the Buffalo School District and to other districts around the state through COSERs that are placed before State Education Department. Our board is elected by local school board members, not by district community members of the district, and that election takes place, the nomination takes place in the end of January, and the election takes place in March. There are 2 seats open this year, mine and Ed Caven, who was a member of Sweet Home. One does not have to be a member of a school board to serve on the BOCES board, could be any community member, any member at all. We meet on Wednesdays at 4 o'clock. We don't have much public that comes before our boards, and I don't know what else you want to know, but that's basically, yes, sir.
Oh, hi, thank you very much for coming. I appreciate it. I was just wondering, you mentioned about the openings on the BOCES board. You and Eddie Cavan, who is a wonderful man, are you both rerunning for your positions, hopefully?
I can't answer for him, and I have not decided yet.
Okay, great, thanks. I was just wondering.
Okay.
Any other questions from any other board members for her?
I have a question,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz.
Oh, and okay, go ahead.
Yeah, when it's time to decide to run or to not run, is there any written or unwritten rule or process that takes place in determining the newest board members for the Erie One BOCES board? In other words, if Ed decides not to run, does the next board member automatically come from his home district?
No. Districts are elected, BOCES board members are elected at large.
Okay.
There has been a rule since I've been a board member that when I was first elected, you could have 2 from one district. The state law changed that. But since we represent 19 school districts, and basically, as a BOCES board member, I am from Williamsville, but I represent all the students in the area. So it isn't that the next school board member, if I decide not to run or if Ed decides not to run, it goes open to all the 19 school districts.
But you can't have 2
You
board
cannot by
members from
law.
the same district.
That's correct. I did beat an incumbent, I will tell you that, a few years back. So the seats are open, and we haven't had many contested elections, but we've had contested elections. So I would encourage anyone who's interested to come to a board meeting or call me or anything. I did, when you walked out, I thanked you for discussing the issues that come before the delegate assembly, which I ran once. And be prepared, if you're bringing up one that wasn't recommended, for your arguments against or for either way, because if you've been there before, you know that happens.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Oh, only other thing I want to say, our superintendent is different in a way from yours. Our superintendent has a cap on the salary determined by the state, and it's a she now, a third of her salary comes from the state education department. So she's the state education department representative in this area for all the districts. That's different from Williamsville. And that's it. And my son, by the way, my kids went through the Williamsville district. 3 of our 8 grandchildren went, and my son Jeffrey is president of the Williamsville Education Foundation. That's all. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for taking the time and coming out this evening. The board has received the 2017-2018 District Goals Implementation Plan. Does anyone have any questions about these plans? No? All right. Class rank. Would someone like to take the class rank motion to resolve to eliminate the use of class rank beginning with students entering grade 9 in September 2017 from the table, please? Mrs. Vasquez, is there a second? Mrs. Beeger, any discussion?
Are we talking about it? This is just the vote to take it from the table.
Just to take it from the table, correct. All in favor? Approved? Or, excuse me, opposed? Abstentions? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Now that it's back on the table, the board has asked Dr. Martzloff to gather additional information about this, and I will ask him to address the board at this time, please.
I'd like to invite Dr. Sierri and Dr. Balin, and we have, it looks like, several administrators here and perhaps some counselors. If they'd like to come forward to the podium and share some information based on the questions that the Board of Education posed at our last meeting, so that the board can be fully informed and updated on this particular topic.
Thank you, Dr. Martzloff, and thank you for the opportunity again to address the board with regard to what Dr. Martzloff indicated. We all concur with is a very important topic. At our last board meeting, we originally presented some information in June, as you'll recall, which also included some survey information and some of the feedback we gathered from our constituents, our students, our parents, and our faculty. That information was shared, and then we had a conversation at the very last board meeting, and some questions were raised, and we were asked to gather additional data to report back. So the first thing we'd like to share with you with regard to some of our research is really looking at some of the feedback we received from SUNY schools. We had been asked to gather additional information from some SUNY schools. So our school counselors were kind enough to divide up the list and make a few phone calls for us, and we're just going to share some of that feedback. Dr. Balin and I are going to round robin this a little bit. We have 8 schools represented here, and wanted to begin with Brockport. SUNY Brockport, as you recall, was raised at our last board meeting as a institute of higher education that required class rank. One of our school counselors, Mrs. Goldstone, made a contact on our behalf, and they indicated that that actually was incorrect, and shortly thereafter changed their website. So if you should wish to access it at any point in time, you will find some updated information, and will show that that is no longer reflected there. So just to continue with SUNY Brockport, what we did with our phone calls is we decided it was really important to articulate the questions we would all ask consistently. So we defined 4 questions, and what we asked every single one was, is class rank required for the application/admission process? If class rank is not provided, how is the student's candidacy considered? Is the student penalized in any way if class rank is not available? And is an alternate metric required? So continuing with Brockport, no, they don't really look at it. Question number 2, the answer was GPA, SAT, ACT scores. If the student is on the fence, they look also at mid-year grades. The answer to question number 3, is the student penalized? The answer was no. Is an alternate metric required? No. You're going to find a theme as Dr. Balin and I share these results. University of Buffalo, again, not required. They look at the school profile, which was really important for us. We updated that last year and have a consistent profile across all of our high schools. Actually, may have been 2 years ago. Is it 2 years ago, Phil? Jackie? Last year? They also indicated, no, the student is not penalized in any way, and an alternate metric is not required. Geneseo, again, same theme. No, they don't use it at all. Many schools don't even provide. They look at strength of program, classes taken, especially in the senior year. Are students challenging themselves? So that importance of rigor and accessing the opportunities that they have available to them at their schools. Is the student penalized? No again. And is an alternate metric required? Again, that would be no.
Good evening. In keeping with what you've already heard, again, these responses are quite similar to the ones already articulated. So from Oswego, class rank is not required. The only time they look at any standing that a student has relative to their class is after admittance, just to say what percentile they may have fallen into. If class rank is not provided, how is the student evaluated? It's done so based on GPAs, SATs, and ACTs, the strength of the classes taken, activities, and community involvement. And the answer is is the student penalized in any ways, and is there an alternate metric required? The answer to both of those was no as well. From Fredonia, again, in keeping with what you've already heard, the answer was no with regard to rank being utilized. What is examined there from students is the strength of the schedule, again, the testing, the GPA. They also look at whether or not the student is well-rounded in terms of the activities that the student happens to be involved in. The student is not penalized in any way, and there is no alternate metric. Even for scholarships, they are based on GPAs and other testing information. From Buffalo State, again, they do not use class rank. What they look at is the academic profile, mainly the first 3 years of high school. Any extracurricular activities and volunteer experience is highly valued. And again, the answer to both questions 3 and 4 in terms of students being penalized and alternate metrics in both cases was also no for both of those responses.
We then made a couple of additional phone calls to schools that we knew were not using rank, just to get additional information as to any potential consequences to students, because that had been a concern of the board as well. So one of the additional contacts that I was able to make indicated that for decades they had not used class rank. They're a very competitive academic environment, and rank was calculated to the hundredths, sometimes thousandths place, and that was minimal difference numerically, but of great significance to the students. No negative impact at all caused by the elimination of class rank, and this particular individual that I was able to speak with had been in the district for 22 years, never had received a report that rank hurt the student in any way, lack of rank. He indicated that The explanation for colleges is found on their website in terms of the profile page, very similar to what we did, and that it's important to the colleges to have an assessment of rigor available to them. They do calculate the top 10% and the top 5% of their class based on GPA. If scholarships and colleges require that, they provide that information. There was no awareness of a college declining admission due to lack of class rank. Indicated to me that the students in attendance go everywhere. Ivy League colleges, 4-year colleges, 2-year colleges, no limitation to their access. I asked about the method for selecting speakers at graduation. And what was indicated this particular school decided to do was they canvassed their faculty for students they feel are appropriate commencement speakers. Approximately every year, about 80 names or so are generated. The administration and school counselors, et cetera, review that list. They'll add names to it if they think there are students that were omitted. And those students with multiple nominations are then presented to the student body, and they vote on the student that they would like to have as their speaker, who the top vote getter then is the person who addresses the class, and the second top vote getter is the person who welcomes the class. Academic awards are not presented at graduation ceremony because their philosophy is that graduation is for all students, to celebrate all students at the graduation. Their perspective was that class rank is hurtful to students and colleges really don't use the information. And they really felt that it just creates additional anxiety and stress. And one of the things I thought was very compelling in our conversation was the reminder to us that students are competing not only with students locally or across the country, but also internationally. And colleges will dissect the information and create their own meaningful understanding because they have apples to oranges.
And I will bring you some information from 3 different district perspectives. All 3 districts do not use class rank. They do not feel that it is needed. In fact, as you've already heard, much of the sentiment that was shared here was also in that there would be a feeling that students would be harmed by having a ranking system. All 3 felt, and one actually stated pretty directly that they felt that the college admissions process was somewhat of a mystery. We obviously know some of the things that are considered, but when it comes to trying to identify at each college or university what is most important, it really is at the discretion of that college or university. So having a ranking system in a high school, from the perspective of these 3 individuals, all of whom have had long-standing relationships either at their current district or have been in more than one district, there was no need to have a ranking system in place. All 3 shared the importance of having a strong transcript or strong course of study. One indicated that in their estimation the transcript should speak for itself, so you could see the range of courses taken and the results of those. They have not seen in any way, shape, or form any negative impact not having rank. They have not seen any impact with regard to scholarships and not for admission purposes either. 2 of the districts, however, do want to share with you, do have a decile system that they do use, which characterizes a band of percentile of which the student would fall into based on their average. And on their profiles, it's actually visible what those bands are. So that's communicated in advance. The profile includes information on the decile system, but also their course of study and what courses are offered at their high schools. They have not heard of or received any concern from parents with regard to either admissions or scholarships, and they really do not see, again, because of the difference among the institutions of higher learning, a real need in this day and age for having rank in place. There's several ways one particular district offered as to how they recognize academic excellence and highlight that in their district. There are different ways they get kids excited by having pep rallies and recognizing not just academic achievement, but participation in different clubs at the school. I thought that was a really unique piece that they offered, and school spirit was really a point of emphasis that this particular district offered. Again, recognizing that students contribute and have different ways that they show their interest at the high school level, and they wanted to showcase that as much as the academic part.
The last area we believe was an area of inquiry from the board was how would we recognize our students? What ways do we currently recognize our students in each of our high schools? And our high school principals are here to share with you the things that they do at each of their high schools. Mr. Scanzuzzo is going to begin.
Thank you. At East High School, we host a senior awards night in May, which acknowledges all of our seniors who receive various academic awards and scholarships throughout the course of the year. During the event, students are recognized for their successes as student athletes, academic All-Western New York, for their AP course achievements, and for community-sponsored volunteering over their 4 years. Underclassmen are given individual recognition with various academic awards for their outstanding promise in a variety of academic areas, for example, in the areas of writing, science, math, volunteering, just to name a few, as they are called to the main office and presented their awards by myself. We've always recognized the top 10 in our graduating class at our Salute to Seniors Assembly on the last day of classes and at our graduation ceremony. The top 3 students are recognized at our annual Student Achievement Recognition Dinner awards ceremony in May. Throughout the course of the year, students who are involved in content-specific testing, such as the National French exam, National Latin exam, National Math exams, science exams, the PSAT, National Merit Commended Student Recognition, perfect scores on ACT, SAT are highlighted at Board of Education meetings. And furthermore, students in the arts and music are recognized at NYSSMA competitions, at the Buffalo Philharmonic, and also by the Buffalo Philharmonic Orchestra. Art students submit work at various shows at the Keenan Center, the Buffalo Museum, the Buffalo Art Museum. Clubs like FBLA, Masterminds, Science Olympiad, Bioinformatics, Model UN, Mock Trial, Tech clubs students are also recognized for their achievements throughout the school year as well. So there's plenty of opportunities for our kids to receive recognition for their outstanding achievement, above and beyond what they do in the classroom.
I'm not going to repeat all of the ones that Tony went over, and I think what you'll find is, I know we're already late, but I think what you'll find is that we each do a lot of the same things, and in fact, even as we were making the lists, I think each of us kind of looked at the list and went, oh yeah, we do that one too, like I didn't even write that one down. And really it's throughout the year. Ones that I would add, and certainly we do our award ceremony at South a little bit different than they do a senior award ceremony. We actually do a full award ceremony. Last year we gave 79 awards, and actually within those awards there may actually be multiple awards for categories. So for instance, many of our departments give department awards to students, so you might actually see a department award in French, and it would go to a 9th grader, a 10th grader, 11th grader, and a 12th grader. So we have our award ceremony in the spring. In addition, we have the honor societies. We actually have a senior honors breakfast every year. So that's for seniors who have carried a 90 or above average over the course of the 7 semesters leading into that. We publish the honor roll each year in the Amherst Bee. We post it up in the school. We have character recognition awards, which go, some are academic and some of those aren't academic. In addition, we actually, at South, we use a pass system, and we actually have the honors pass. And the honors pass it's actually a mix. It's not just academic, but students who have there's an attendance component, there's a discipline component, and there's also an academic component. But because we require passes through the hallways, they can apply for the honors pass, and that allows them to go through the halls without having to get a pass from teachers. Where it becomes really important for a lot of them is when they want to leave the cafeteria to go up to the library or go visit teachers, and so we actually have that process. In addition, I would say, I think one of the things that we're doing, and the ones you can't prepare for, I think of last year, we had a student who had a perfect ACT. They were here and we were recognizing them there. And so we're always looking for ways to honor the students, whether it's individually, as a group. We're always looking for ways to promote that. And I don't think that would change at all without having class rank. We would continue to look for ways to consistently promote students, and not just academically, but for all the achievements that they have throughout the year, both in and out of the classroom.
It's always fun to go after these two guys after they've gone through all of the repertoire. Sometimes, as principals, we do things that aren't so pleasant, so we spare no opportunity to celebrate some of the successes of our students, especially in the area of academics. But there's a lot of crossovers, and I'm going to mention some of them. I think many of them are crossovers for what we do in the other schools. But again, some of them are a little bit different. We do a National Merit Scholarship competitions, and that I'm announcing those two tomorrow morning at our morning announcements. Our Scholastic Achievement Recognition Dinner that Tony already mentioned, our Scholastic Bowl competition, and some of the successes we've had there. We have Harkness Student Achievement Recognitions, DECA Regional, State, National competition participants. We have Advanced Placement Scholars, Scholar Athlete Programs, Student of the Month recognition. We have Honor Roll recognition like everyone else. National Honor Society, Biology Honor Society, Chemistry, Math, German, Latin, Career and Technical Honor Society. We have Academic Awards Ceremony that's about 2.5 hours long, where we go across disciplines and departments, and we also give a couple of major scholarship awards at our graduation. And we at North, especially our PTA meeting last night, are very, very pro getting rid of class rank. We think that it's an antiquated way for colleges to assess how our students would do in their programs. I think that I've been in different schools, and if I compare our top 10 students compared to the top 10 students from the schools I've been in before, they are apples and oranges. So I think that that's something that's a huge consideration when you're considering this decision. Thank you.
That concludes our presentation for this evening. We're here to respond to any questions or additional comments that you would like us to respond to. But I also want to recognize that two of our counselors have joined us this evening, Phil Miller and Jackie Gregory, and they will join us at the podium if there are questions that they can respond to. So thank you.
Questions, board members?
We heard from Mr. Colicchio. I'd like to hear from Mr. Boardman and Mr. Scanzuzzo. We've been talking about class rank in the Williamsville Central School District for more than a decade, about the possibility of removing it. I'd like to know from each of the principals what conclusion they've come to for their specific schools, and whether or not this should be something that is completely eliminated for all students immediately, or should it be phased in some way, shape, or form? And any rationale you could give would be great.
Sure. And if I'd like to give a little bit of background. The district that I actually came from prior to working here is a pretty high-ranking district in Rochester. We did not have class rank. And I know one of the things that, and I think they've probably seen me get a little bit heated about this topic, is one of the questions we often get asked is, well, don't you think if you get rid of class rank, kids just won't take tough classes anymore? And I always say, no, that's absolutely untrue. I came from a district that is pretty continually ranked, number one or at the very top on all these rankings, that come out. And our students absolutely took tough classes. They challenged themselves. And so the message that I feel very strongly about is this isn't about rank. It's about sending the right messages to students about what colleges are really looking for. And we had that discussion the other day, and I think what Dr. Sierra said about this is not students, this isn't, South students aren't applying to college against South students. So why are we comparing them? They're applying to college against kids from North, from East, from all over Buffalo, from all over New York, from all over the country, and really internationally these days. And so, at one point I was having a conversation with one of my teachers who we were kind of going back and forth, and I said, how come we don't rank, district-wide? If this is there, why don't we rank district-wide? And they're like, well, you really can't compare these. I said, but we're really doing that. by having class rank in such an enclosed environment and telling kids, well, you're number 10 or you're number 50, we're really only doing it in a very small environment. We're not doing them a service by actually having that. What I would say is it's been pretty overwhelming at my PTSA, from my staff, from myself. I haven't found really anybody who has spoken in favor of class rank at South. I think in general, when I've spoken to, and I've spoken to actually students about this as well over the past couple of years, in general, I think the students, even when we talked about what would we do in terms of phasing in, not phasing in, I think most of the students felt really the way I feel too, which is that if a student has been in the process of that class rank, we probably shouldn't pull it from them at this time. So I think, what I would recommend personally is that probably the freshmen who are here right now, they're 7 days in. They haven't gotten too far into it. As a matter of fact, right now, most of them are still trying to find the rooms at times, at least at South, where all the rooms are in different places and there's an even and an odd. That's right. The link crew is helping that. So, but I would say that if we were going to do it, the phasing in process is certainly what South would support. And it would surprise me if you would find very many or any at all parents or students who would support keeping class rank. And I'll tell you just as an anecdote to that, the past 2 years at our SARD dinner, and I think both Tony and Gary mentioned that SARD is the Scholastic Achievement Recognition Dinner, and we usually take the top 3 students. In the past 2 years we've been there, I've talked to them at that dinner about that and asked them what they thought about getting rid of class rank. And all 6 students over the past 2 years have said, oh, you should get rid of it. It's a pretty telling story, and these are high achieving students, but they also recognize the big picture, and certainly that's it's a credit to them, I think. So.
Yeah, I would concur with Mr. Boardman. At East High School, a school that's very highly academic achieving, and kids really come in with a plan from their freshman year. They put an awful lot of stress on themselves at times because of the academic rigors that they want to put themselves through and the achievements that they try to fulfill. So I mean, at East it's a no-brainer as well. The kids who do achieve very high, I could speak for one a few years back who was our #1 student who said that, and she's at Yale, and her class rank said it was something we should definitely get rid of. She was one of the first people that actually addressed our PTSA members about getting rid of it, probably 3 years ago. And I think that, like Mr. Boardman said, I think the kids who have skin in the game already, your sophomores, your juniors and seniors who have already been working toward the class rank piece, they should be afforded that opportunity. And like I said, the incoming freshmen just haven't had enough exposure into rank at this point in time. So having it be done away with our freshman class would be a smart move, I think, on how we phase it in. But I do have to say that, hands down, the class rank is really something that is not all that supported at East High School, even though it's a very highly competitive academic group of kids. They all know who the top ranking students are amongst themselves, and I have to say that for some of them, they're a little shy about that, humble, and maybe a little bit embarrassed as well about just being out there with their rank. So having said that, I think we'd be doing our student body a service in removing it. Thanks.
Other questions from board members? I have a question then. I heard that we have suggestions from other districts as to how to select speakers. What are we going to do? How are we going to decide, and when are we going to make that decision?
Well, that probably depends on when your decision on how you're going to phase out class rank, doesn't it? We had this conversation the other day, and I think all 3 of us would agree that we would probably want to leave it up to the school to decide. Truthfully, East already does something different than we do at South. We've traditionally had the salutatorian and the valedictorian speak. East has not, and I think North has had. Yep. I'll be honest, for me, in my head, what starts reeling is I would want the students to take a part in deciding what our new tradition is. So depending on which class was going to be doing it, I would really want to work with the students to figure out something that they think would be a lasting tradition that they could actually be a part of. I think if you go, and there's a lot of different examples. My old school district, they had a person from the National Honor Society speak, and then they had a teacher speak instead. So the students voted on a teacher. I think the opportunities are immense. We can really figure out 1,000 different ways to have people speak. For me at South, I would really want the students to take part in that and come to a decision as a group to allow them to create their own new tradition, which is certainly something at South that we value.
I could talk about the long-standing tradition at East High School has been that we open it up to any senior to submit an essay, a speech. It's anonymous when it comes to the administration as we're reading them. The only person that knows who the gatekeeper of each speech is Mrs. Warner, and our secretary. And as we read them, we pretty much kind of get a feel for what we feel would be impactful, meaningful, and we make that decision based on a letter, A, B, C, D, the amount of submissions we get, and we prioritize them and we select 2. And we've done that for years.
Just going along with what Mr. Boardman said, it's an opportunity to create a new tradition. It's an opportunity to really enlist the kids' interest in what we do and how we do it, and give them some ownership for it. And I think that when they establish their own tradition, it means so much more to them. So those are the ideas that we talked about, and there's unlimited ideas, as Mr. Boardman also said. But at the same time, I think that we will never do everything just the same as the other school does, because we are different schools, we have different cultures, and we have different kids and different interests. So I think that we'll all give an opportunity. We will establish our own culture with that.
And each of us will believe we're in the better one. That's just how it goes.
I do have one question.
So in conclusion, when we met as a group, we really felt that it was important for each team, each school, and group of students to have a voice in making that determination.
So I do have a question that I know you answered, but I do want to share the concerns. Yesterday I did attend North PTSA as a school board liaison and as a parent. I do have a petition that was signed by the parents there that they are in favor of elimination. They would like to see it implemented sooner. I concur with those sentiments. All of this research has shown the benefits of not having class rank. We know that our students, our parents, and our teachers took a survey. I took it when my daughter was in 8th grade. She's now in 10th. What I think is a little bit of a disservice is we asked to hear their voice. We now came to this conclusion, but it's not going to be implemented for a lot of these students. And I can say that as a parent. I took the survey, I voiced my concerns. My daughter has expressed her concerns. She's in 10th grade. She has no idea what her class rank is. I have no idea what it is. I don't want to know, and I don't want her to know. But to know that it can become a hindrance for college admission when we do produce such high-achieving students to begin with, I would just like to have it be considered either for the junior class or the sophomore class as my final plea of having it implemented sooner, as all the data shows that elimination is favorable.
Any other questions for our presenters here? Not, I'll let them sit down and we can open it up for general discussion. Thank you. So for general discussion, who's got a comment or concern or question on this?
Well, first off, I just want to thank our professionals and our principals for coming in and giving us that information. I found it very enlightening. I know I've done a ton of research knowing that this vote was coming up and knowing that folks expect us to take it very seriously and weigh everything and to reach a decision on this. But what I see overwhelmingly is that class rank is becoming increasingly irrelevant, if not obsolete. And it may actually harm applicants in the sense that they're chasing a rank when the colleges are not even looking at that rank. They're looking at a bevy of different measures that they could be chasing. And so in that respect, and given the overwhelming amount of support amongst the professionals for removing class rank, I personally have come to the conclusion, and I didn't see anyone here tonight objecting to it, of removing class rank. I am in favor personally, to speak to Ms. Van Sice's concern, of phasing it in, because I do feel that the students who are currently in the system, they do have skin in the game, so to speak. They knew what to expect when they entered into the system. And so I do feel that it would be unfair to those students who have chased that class rank to remove it so suddenly, because I feel that it would be a waste of their efforts. So that's a kind of concise statement of my opinion, but I'll put it out there first.
Other comments? Mrs. Beeger?
I have to echo what both of you have said, and throughout the whole presentation, I was curious hearing both sides, and it seems so overwhelmingly weighted towards one side that both parents and students are really feeling that this class rank is a hindrance. I'm not sure it's fair to say that only the freshmen get the freedom, I guess I'll say, from having that class rank, especially when one of the concerns, or really one of the greatest arguments I heard, was parents felt, or a couple parents mentioned, that they would not have their child recognized in academically of class rank, which to be told that this is like a participation trophy for everyone. Clearly that's not happening here in our district. I mean, the overwhelming amount of different kinds of awards, and so many of them academic. Some parents had voiced concerns that, well, class rank is a way for those who excel in academics to shine. We give athletes awards. What about our students who are performing so well academically? Well, we have so many, and it sounds after tonight from hearing that presentation that so many students are awarded in many different ways and recognized for academics and otherwise, not just in athletics. So I have a hard time making a decision that only impacts the incoming freshmen when we've heard from a number of students who are sophomores, juniors, and now our senior class, for them to advocate and not reap the benefits when they're applying to schools. I almost feel like we do them a disservice. So I guess a question I should have asked now that you've all sat down, but I'm thinking of it now, is I know that it was stated, well, it seems like a good idea because this current freshman class doesn't really know about class rank. But then it was also stated that no one really cares if it's going to go away for the majority. So what's to stop us from making this move and allowing all of our students a fair chance to excel and succeed and go on their paths to colleges they want to, and not be held by class rank because they're lucky to be a part of such a high achieving district?
Mr. Micah?
Mary, Ms. Beeger, just to respond to your concern about implementing it immediately for all students, I had received a communication from a parent of a high-achieving student who has been working very hard to do well with their class rank for many years, and I know that they would be really disappointed if class rank went away now when they've been in pursuit of it for so long. Just one perspective. I shared that email with the group when I got it, or text message, but so to me that really speaks to the need to phase it in with the freshman class now.
I was going to ask if we could look at it separately, make a vote in terms of eliminating class rank, sort of generically, and then do a separate discussion on whether it's freshmen, sophomores. Because I think each of us, I believe, has probably heard from a number of parents who have voiced their opinions, but I think it's a small percentage of the parents in the district that we've heard from. And so I don't know if there should be another survey done in each of the high schools to gather, what do a larger percentage of the seniors think and the juniors and the sophomores. And I don't think we have to ask the freshmen if that's a choice, because we've said it's really not an item they're familiar with. So that's why I think it needs to be maybe voted on as a concept and then revisit at the next meeting where we start, whether it's freshman, sophomore, junior, or senior.
Well, to answer that specifically, we would have to vote down the current motion. However, you can amend the current motion to change the timeline or the wording. That being said, I do want to throw out there, I'm trying to be somewhat impartial on this. I think for the most part, I think we're hearing that the board is in favor of this, but I do want to point out that I had a conversation a few weeks ago with my daughter, and she had 4 or 5 of her friends over, and they were all juniors, and a few of them were seniors at South High School. And when I posed the question to them about should we get rid of class rank, all of them immediately jumped up and said yes, without a question. So then I questioned and I said, well, should we get rid of it for all the classes right now? And almost as quickly, they all said no. And my daughter came to the reasoning saying that while I don't believe her to be in the top 2 or 3 of her class, she is in the top of her class, but she knows people that have made this an academic career to try their best to finish number 1, number 2, at least in those top couple positions, to be the valedictorian. And the rest of the room at that point kind of sighed and agreed with her in their basic thinking that they could all think of somebody that has been really focusing quite heavily that this is what they want. And take that with what you want. It's only 4 or 5, 6 kids out of, how many that are graduating in the senior class. So.
That senior class?
Sorry, that was junior and senior.
And senior.
Just so we can be clear that what we're currently being asked to approve, that would eliminate class rank, and it would make it effective starting with the incoming freshman class, correct?
Correct. That is the resolution on the table. Mr. Mecca?
Did I miss something? Was there a motion made and a second?
No.
It was made to bring it back from being tabled.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. All right.
Already been approved initially.
Right, it's been brought back.
Understood. Thank you. From a previous meeting. Okay. Thanks.
Again, you can amend the motion, and we can vote on the amended version of that motion and then discussion on it.
Could you review it one more time before we take a vote or decide what to do?
Motion stands to resolve to eliminate the use of class rank beginning with the students entering grade 9 in September 2017. Any further discussion before we take a vote? Okay, with no further discussion, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations. Would someone like to make a motion to adopt the resolution for the certification of lead evaluators as presented? Mrs. Beeger, second. Dr. McClary, any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried unanimously. Would someone like to move the first reading of the following new and revised policies? That is new policy 3115, website accessibility, and revised policies 1340, actually I think 1340 board staff communications should be stricken from this. So revised policy 7222, diploma and credential options for students with disabilities. 7240, student records, access and challenge. 7530, child abuse and maltreatment. 7670, impartial due process hearings and selection of impartial hearing officers.
So to clarify, we are not moving the first reading a new revised policy of 1340. That's not
Correct.
okay.
We have not had a first reading of it.
Great. Okay.
Mrs. Beeger, a second. Mr. Mecca, any discussion? Would someone like to move to table the motion for a second reading and adoption of the October 17, 2017 regular board meeting? Mr. Mecca? Mrs. Van Cise? Okay. Would someone like to make a motion to adopt the annual professional performance review APPR plan as presented? Mrs. Van Cise, second. Dr. McCleary, any discussion on it? All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Someone like to make a motion to approve the resolution to appoint the DASA, that's Dignity for All Students Act, district and building coordinators as presented. Mrs. Van Cise, second. Mrs. Beeger, any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? I will be abstaining due to conflict, so motion carries 7-0-1. Would someone like to make a motion to adopt the amended code of conduct as presented? Mrs. Beeger, second. Mr. Mecca, any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Dr. Martzoff, would you like to report on class sizes, please?
Yes, in your packet is our updated class sizes at our elementary grade levels, and I'm happy to answer any questions from the board on this particular report.
Questions from the board? Mrs. Beeger?
Just make a comment that this report was very much appreciated. I really appreciated how the numbers were put together, how it was color-coded, how we could really get a clear understanding of how we're creating our classes and really looking at guidelines. It's something that I think has been important to this board and we've heard is important to parents in our community. So I appreciate the work that's been done in our district looking at these numbers and making sure that our classrooms are staying within the guidelines for our regular classrooms.
And as there was not a parent here tonight, I would like to say thank you. It's a parental concern that we've heard time and time again to keep within the class size guidelines. So I'd like to thank the district for ensuring that that happened.
You're welcome, and I'd just like to say thank you to our leadership team, in particular Dr. Sierra and Mr. Militello, who worked on this report along with our principals. It was very well done and helpful to update the board, particularly at the beginning of the school year, to make sure we were within class size guidelines across the district. So thank you very much.
Would someone like to make a motion to resolve to approve the property tax settlements and transfer amounts from the tax Satari fund as presented? Certiorari. I can say that.
Tertiary.
Certiorari fund as presented. Mrs. Van Cise, a second. Mrs. Beeger, any discussion? I'll say it goes unsaid that I hate this, but realize that it's been negotiated and it's what it is. All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. If you have any liaison or conference reports, please pass them to Mrs. Serafin. Okay. Does anyone need coverage for any of the upcoming meetings? Yes, Mrs. Van Sites.
I would like to ask if there is any board member that is able to attend the SEPSTA meeting on September 28th. It's a Thursday night at 6:45 here at District Office. It is Williamsville North's open house, and I, as a parent and educator, cannot miss my child's open house. But I also, as the first meeting of the academic year for SEPSTA, I feel obligated that there is a board member to attend. If not, I will express, my sincere, condolence that I'm not able to be there. But if there is a board member, and I would even exchange a meeting with a board member, so you can either email me or maybe let me know if that is a possibility.
What was the date again?
Thursday, September 28th.
I have to check.
I got you.
Can you do it? And let me know if you'd like me to cover for you.
Okay, it's
I'm sure it's going to be in Erie County all the way in West Seneca.
Mr. Mecca will cover. Great. Thank you very much. Any other board members?
Is that here?
Yes.
Okay. At what time? 6?
6:45. Thank you very much.
Do want to remind anybody that if you can't make a meeting, please let the rest of the board know, and we'll do our best to try and provide coverage for it. Are there any legislative matters that anyone would like to discuss? Nope. Okay, the 2017 summer school curriculum. Dr. Marsoff, would you like to report on this year's summer school, please?
Yeah, we had a very highly successful summer school. Our summer school principal for our school program is with us this evening. I'm sure he'd be happy to answer any questions from the board, if there are any, in regards to our summer school program tonight.
Is he still awake?
Yes. So poor Mr. Thomas, I just have to ask you a question because you've been sitting here this long. I did go through the numbers. I know last year I had asked if there was, it looked like it was 50% new courses were being taken, as well as those that were being review classes. Is health, the health that was listed, is that considered a new course offering?
Yes. Yes, health is a new course offering.
And I would just like to say, I think it's outstanding that so many of the summer school students that were taking the review classes were very successful with not only passing the class, but also being able to retake the regents and looking like the majority, if not almost all of them, passed those regents examinations.
Yes.
So thank you.
Yep.
Dr. McClary?
Again, just a quick question on the one table that talks about the number of students in kindergarten. In 2016, there were 43, and in 2017, there were 104. That
Yes.
just sort of really seemed like.
Well, I'm the summer school principal for high school.
I
so
know that.
That piece.
I
don't know.
can address that.
Yes.
If that's okay.
Yeah, it sounded like, I know that. I didn't in that way, sir.
And you are right. It looks like and is quite a significant increase. Each year, what we do as a team of principals and also inclusive of our instructional specialists for, in this case, ELA and math specifically, is look at how we are identifying and recommending students to participate in our programming. We have made some changes at these, particularly at these early grades. One of the changes that I noted in the narrative was a greater emphasis in the area of math. So as a result of some of our changes and looking at our processes, our practices, and how those flow, if you will, that accounts for the increase. We've also put into place an increased communication method by which the teachers use the established criteria. There are established meetings with the building principal, and again, that I would venture to say also accounts for a greater number of student needs to be identified with greater precision.
Okay, thank you. And thank you also.
Any other questions? Mrs.
Just
Beeger?
sorry. I just want to say thank you to Mr. Thomas for his leadership in the summer school program and your dedication. It's a lot of hours and days, and you don't really get a vacation in the summer when you're the summer school principal. So thank you for the sacrifices you made with your family as well. Sorry.
Oh, that's fine. I agree. Thank you, Mr. Thomas. And I don't know, this is just a comment, not a question, and I don't know if you are the umbrella of all of this. I was looking to go to the summer music program, and that we had 485 students in Williamsville participate in the summer music program this summer. That's up over 100 kids from last year, and I just think it's so outstanding that our music educators in our district take the time over the summer to have kids come and play music together. I just think that's an awesome opportunity, and the fact that almost 500 kids in our district take advantage of that is really outstanding. So kudos to the summer music program and all who are involved with that. That's very impressive.
Yes, thank you.
And any other questions? I'm going to say thank you and all the summer principals and kind of go on Dr. Martzloff's comments here. Thank you for what you do, giving up your summer and putting this together and administering it, and it looks highly effective. So kudos to you and the rest of the staff and the team that's behind that. So
Thank you for the opportunity.
thank you.
Thank you.
Would someone like to make a motion to resolve to approve the new textbook as presented? And that, I believe, is a copy sitting right here, if anybody would like to look at it. It is about 150 pounds in weight.
Do we have to do one of the end of the unit tests or anything to approve it?
I think we should randomly open it up, and I'll take a quiz out of the middle. Yep,
Answer
maybe
is-
not.
That's it. The answer is B.
Do I have a motion? That would be Mr. Meyer, a second. Mrs. Van Cise. Any discussion? And of course, if you'd like to look at it here, I can pass it along.
I trust that no labels.
Yeah.
Any discussion? Nope. Hearing none. All in favor? Opposed? And abstentions? It looks like motion carries unanimously. Facilities Improvement Plan, Dr. Martzloff, would you please give us an update on the district's plan, please?
Sure. We've made a number of improvements all across the district in addition to all of our athletic fields that have been updated. We've also had an opportunity to replace the roof work at South High School, a lot of renovation work at North, East, Heim Elementary, Heim Middle, Middle, Forest, Maple West, and Country Parkway, with more work coming this coming summer. So it was a busy summer. I want to say thank you to Mr. Matursky and our Director of Facilities, Mr. Langlots, who did a tremendous amount of organization and displacing of people out of schools or out of different portions of schools. And it really took a lot of patience and cooperation by lots of people to get that done. So thank you to them, and thank you to all of the contractors who completed the work in a timely manner.
Thank you, and thank you to the same team. I've been witnessing Sal's completion here, even the roofing, which seemed to be quite complex, and I think 2 weeks before the start of school was getting to be a little concerning if it was going to be done or not, but never fear, you guys always come through, so kudos to you guys. Thank you. Would someone like to make a motion to resolve to the Amherst Youth Basketball Lease Agreement as presented? Mrs. Beeger, second. Mrs. Van Cise, any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Would someone like to make a motion to resolve and approve the construction project change order for Lewis Del Prince and Sons Incorporated for $144,014.40 as presented? Mrs. Van Cise, second. Dr. McClary, any discussion? All in favor? All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. There are no special needs and student activity matters to discuss this month. Does anyone have a request or a matter to discuss under the committee of the whole? No. Is there any correspondences to discuss? Boy, we're flying right along here.
Actually, I do just want to make a quick comment because we received so many comments and emails from parents in particular concerned about the class size. It seems like their concern has been addressed. It seems that we're going to have all of our classes within the guidelines, which is a great thing to hear. I hope that we just continue to keep tabs on it, keep parents informed as quickly as possible, because I could tell they were very concerned about it. I was too. And maybe in the future, just based on some of the comments we received from parents via email, we just take a look maybe at our guidelines to assess whether or not they need to be adjusted in the future for smaller class sizes, particularly for elementary school students. So it's more of a comment than something for a full discussion or action, but I wanted to make sure that that was addressed at this board meeting.
Would someone like to make a motion to meet in executive session to continue our discussion on employment matters relating to a particular person, collective negotiations pursuant to Article 14 of the Civil Service Law, and current litigation? Mrs. Vasquez, is there a second? Mrs. Van Cise, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Would someone like to make a motion to return the regular board meeting to public session, please? Mrs. Van Cise? Mrs. Beeger? All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Our next board meeting will be on October 17th, 2017, with public session at 7 p.m. I would also like to thank Mrs. Vasquez for sitting in this evening as the board vice president, acting board vice president tonight. Thank you for your services. Would someone like to make a motion to adjourn the regular board meeting? Mrs. Beeger? Mrs. Vasquez? All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Good night.